All right, everyone. I've been doing a lot of thinking about the potential Rebels sequel that obviously is no secret. Like, we're going to get something, some sort of conclusion to Rebels. So let's talk about it. Okay, so just to catch up a little bit, here are the facts we know about Rebels and what the Mandalorian has told us, and kind of let's speculate what's actually going to happen in the future for this. So here's the things we do know from the Rebels finale. A, Ezra's in pretty rough shape. He's been shot in the back by Grand Admiral Thrawn. He doesn't have a lightsaber. The windows are smashed out on the Star Destroyer, and the Purrgil are jumping to hyperspace into the unknown regions, wherever the hell it is he's going. So Ezra's in rough shape. The other interesting thing is Sabine has Ezra's lightsaber. We see her actually use it a little bit at the end. So if we ever do get Sabine in some sort of live action, will she wield Ezra's lightsaber? We've seen her use the dark saber, so obviously she's been trained. So it'd be interesting if we see her light up Ezra's green saber in the future, as they're supposedly looking for him. The other thing too is Ezra's message to Sabine after he disappears says that he's counting on her.
Sabine, don't forget.
Right.
I'm counting on you.
But for what?
Sabine interprets that as, I need to watch over Lothal to make sure the Empire doesn't come back and retaliate. And after time goes by, the war ends and the Empire never came back. She starts to realize, what if I was meant to go find Ezra? That's kind of in the epilogue about on her and Ahsoka starting that journey to find Ezra and bring him home. And the other important tidbit here is in Ezra's final message. He says that, they are his family and he cannot wait to get home to his family and see them again.
I couldn't have wished for a better family. I can't wait to come home.
So there's definitely motive for Ezra to find his way back home, even if people weren't looking for him. So that's what we know from the end of Rebels. We also know the end of Rebels takes place in 0 BBY, more or less just before the Battle of Yavin. The Return of the Jedi is 4 BBY, so we got 4 years to the end of the war. And then the Mandalorian takes place another 5 years after Jedi in 9 BBY, before the Battle of Yavin. 9 years ABY after the Battle of Yavin. So that's the time frame we're looking. So Ezra's been missing for at least the 4 years to the end of Jedi, but Filoni has come out and said or teased that the Ahsoka appearance in The Mandalorian isn't necessarily linear. In other words, meaning that appearance could have happened before the epilogue in Rebels, which, if you think about it, it makes a lot of sense, because in the epilogue we kind of have what's been called Ahsoka the White. She has a staff, she's all dressed in white, and when we get her in The Mandalorian, she's wearing a tattered poncho, and she definitely does not look as peaceful as she does in the epilogue. So it's highly likely that epilogue takes place after her appearance in The Mandalorian, and The Mandalorian takes place in 9 years after the Battle of Yavin. Now we're a full 9 years Ezra's been missing, and now say maybe add 1 more year for the epilogue, so say we're at a 10-year period of now they're finally, so it's been a decade, and now we're finally just going to start looking for Ezra. So that's a long time for A, Ezra to be gone, and for B, Ezra to not have communicated or found his way back. For someone with his knowledge and his power, he would certainly be capable of it. So why haven't we seen Ezra or heard from Ezra? And then number 2, this is what the Mandalorian now tells us in the Ahsoka episode. Ahsoka is looking for Grand Admiral Thrawn, and when she corners the magistrate, where is your master? It's pretty evident that Grand Admiral Thrawn is back up in business to being a bad guy, and he's obviously communicating with these remnant pieces of the Empire, and he's likely amassing power, or he's working on something. So Thrawn is very much active. So this again is in that 9-year time period. Thrawn is active. He's leading remnants of the Empire that we can speculate. So he's up and functioning. So between this period with Thrawn, with the Ahsoka mention of Thrawn, to when they left in Rebels, Thrawn A survived, and Thrawn B has started to regain his power, and he's building it in the unknown regions. Well, we could assume he's out in the unknown regions. Where's Ezra? You know, I think the one idea that I really loved or would have loved to see is kind of the Ezra Thrawn team up, kind of like the reluctant allies. You know, given wherever they landed, it might have just been them, or they could have been in an even worse situation, so they might have had to work together to get out of where they did. That's obviously just a theory. I think that'd be great television for a season of 2 of them being buddy. But at some point around the line, you know, do they go their separate ways, or does Thrawn imprison Ezra? Is Ezra, you know, like what happened to Ezra? There's so many, you know, for the unaccounted time here, like we're dealing with a decade of what could have happened to Ezra. You know, if he didn't team up with Thrawn, or did Thrawn turn on him, or he's not in prison, then did Ezra find something out there? Did he find a new cause to latch onto? Is he helping some sort of people? Is there a new threat out there? You know, in the Thrawn books, there's the Grisk or the Gursk or whatever. Is he involved in that battle? You know, did he retire? Did he go into exile? Did he settle down? You know, the settle down, retiring, all that piece doesn't make sense when you go back to the original quote from Rebels. He's like, you guys are my family. I can't wait until I make myself back to you. So we have to assume if Thrawn is able to communicate and coordinate his forces, we have to assume that there's not really a barrier for Ezra to transport, to fly back, or communicate back. Because if Thrawn's doing it, Ezra hypothetically should be able to do it. So there has to be something out there keeping him from making his way back to his family. So again, this is a completely blank sandbox for, you know, Dave and John to play in. It's probably my most anticipated Star Wars storyline whenever we find out if they've officially picked that back up. But it's going to be something else. Like I said, and to go back to the Ahsoka piece, like, why is she beating down the door for Thrawn, right? Like, is she I would assume, like, is she going after Thrawn to find Ezra, or is she going after Thrawn to stop Thrawn from something? That's the one big question mark that needs to be answered, because she then later goes back in the epilogue to say, let's go find Ezra. So A, did she find a clue out from Thrawn on where Ezra can be, and now she's come back to get Sabine, right? Could be, considering the Mandalorian show has all been kind of RPG based, right? Like, let's go on a quest, let's fetch something, go on to the next level. Maybe Ahsoka's big step was, I have to get to Thrawn to get the piece of information to take back to Sabine, and then we can go and look for Ezra. So let me know your thoughts. Where do you think Ezra's been this whole time? Do you think that the Ahsoka scene in The Mandalorian, you think that's pretty much confirmed now that it happens before that epilogue? Why the heck did they wait so long to go get Ezra? So yeah, let me know in the comments. And if you like this video, please subscribe.